it. I mean, he always listened to it younger, but now that I'm older, I've been kind of having a renaissance to it, and it's just something about the abstractness of it. So I don't have to focus on what are they saying, what's the message. It just feels good. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start the Slam Show right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the city of Alameda, TV EPM presents The Slam Show with your host, Rock Rage.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rock Rage here in Alameda at the Churchward Pub here in Alameda. And thank you for coming here and tuning in with us. And right now, we have a special guest I want to introduce you to, Brendon Metcalf, who is an illustrator and artist. Thank you and welcome being here on the show.
Thank you for having me also. Appreciate it.
And tonight, I have a news co-host with me tonight, singer Alexa.
Hello.
Alexa Stringer.
Alexa Stringer.
So thank you both for being here on the Slam Show. And we're going to jump into a lot of different things. But first up, I just want to say, how was your guys' Thanksgiving?
Really well.
Kind of boring.
Yeah. Best way to spend
What'd you guys do?
Right. You first.
I spent it with my grandfather and my step-grandmother, and it was just us three, which is nice because Thanksgiving is cool, but like a 10-hour span of 30 family members, like it can be exhausting too.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that it was just a small thing, ribs, sweet potatoes, like watch
Ooh,
football.
there you go.
Yeah,
You had it all.
And I drove home and went to sleep. It was good. It was a good time.
Alexa.
Yeah, my morning started off, I woke up and my bathroom was flooded. So that's where I started my morning off. I just moved into a new place, so it's kind of having issues. But so that's what I did the majority of my morning, let them kind of do their thing. Then I went to my parents' house and watched my family get drunk. It was pretty, got to hang out with my animals. I have little kitty cats. I have a cat named Louis Vuitton, so I had to go see him. Don't laugh.
I'm laughing because I was like, it must be the most expensive thing to buy for. It's like, no, if it's not Louis Vuitton, then I don't want it, no.
Pretty much. Yeah, so I got to see him, and that's always the light of my day.
Okay.
I love how I'm excited to see my cat as opposed to my family.
Yeah. Well, it's good that, to be around family, especially around the holidays, because right now it is really tough. I could tell that a lot of people, they're always on the rush. Sometimes their jobs don't give them days off. So when Thanksgiving came around this year, my family was like, yeah, we're all working. So
I had to work the next day, so
Yeah.
I was in bed by 8.
Yeah, all I did was just met up with the family, and they're like, oh, we're all going to work. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'll just... me and my brother were just like, let's watch the football game. We watched the Macy's Day parade. So I was like, okay, it's kind of cool to see it. But it's funny, when I actually saw it for, this year's, I went online and they were showing like the 80s versions of it. And then, did you know in the 80s versions, they used to have like floats dedicated to like Marvel and then like He-Man and all these other like big kind of, and they were actually, instead of just having a float, they actually had actors act out like scenes on the floats. And I was like, I didn't see any of this. On the new day, the new floats are, don't get me wrong, they're bold, they're strong, they're messages. I'm like, but I want to see some terrible acting.
That's on my bucket list, is to fly out there one day and actually see it live to New York.
Cool.
Yeah. New York around that time, too, was very cold, too, so everybody was freezing,
And we all know how I can't handle the, 50-degree weather here.
Okay. Well, that was Thanksgiving. How was your guys' weekends, real quick?
I know, we got to
Today's
think
Monday?
back.
Yeah. Well,
What did we do on the weekend?
Weekends just move. I try to. I'm a homebody. I've realized this over the years, so I don't go out over the weekends because it's like everything's more expensive. $30 for parking in San Francisco just so I can babysit my friends. So my weekends, what I do, I just drew, slept, the life, worked, and then nothing too crazy. Yeah.
That's how you do it.
I'll tell you, man. It's years of
I
grace
did
for
that
me.
all day Saturday, so I'm kind of with him on that.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
Friday night, I did go out for a little bit, actually until 2 o'clock in the morning. It was pretty fun. This random guy was DJing, and I got my VIP parking. It's so nice.
DJ Random Guy.
To the DJ.
Yes, totally. No, but it was actually, so that was Friday night, and it's funny because where the club is, it's, of course, in Walnut Creek. How many people, where'd you go? Down the street from my house. Not far. But it was nice, got out, and because I've been kind of in the slump of not being able to kind of get out of that, and it's like I've been kind of like laying low on the weekends, not going out, trying not to spend money. But that doesn't really work.
It's really hard. Advertisement these days are like everywhere you go. You sit at the bus stop. It's like, hey, you got to get this new iPhone. It's like,
even with I didn't realize this, but my step grandmother brought up too because we were talking about Black Friday, and she goes, you know what they do? They sell you a bunch of crap you don't need. And I was like, I never thought of it that way. But it's like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, spending more money than on things that I didn't realize. Like I don't really need them, but I'm like,
you don't need a 55-inch TV.
Right.
In every room.
I am so proud I did not do any shopping except for today. I slipped.
Wait a second.
I booked myself.
Hold on,
I
you
booked
slipped.
myself a trip to Vegas.
Good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right before Christmas.
Good,
So
even
I don't
better.
care if I go by myself. I will straight
I think
up go.
I think I saw a post. You're like, I'm going, and someone else is like, yeah, I'm going this day, and you're like, dang it, come this day.
Randy. Oh, that's funny.
Shout out to Randy. This weekend I'll just really just jump into this real quick. So I also work with the Walnut Creek Lesher Theater. So I was actually working with them and getting one of the Christmas plays that's going on right now, which is Christmas Carol, right? It's one of the big ones that Walnut Creek puts on every year. And what's really incredible, I don't know if you know, but a lot of the actors over the years, they grow up, they fill in other roles of older roles that they used to play. So if you're like a young kid, you're playing one role, and then you get older, you can't play that little role, but you can play now like the older brother role. It's really cool. So it's like a generational kind of thing.
Make you feel old though. It's like
it's
you're
kids.
stepping up in age.
Yeah, but it's always fun. And actually, tomorrow I'll be actually helping them load in things over there.
It's supposed to rain tomorrow, so
yeah. Oh no, yeah. Rain, sleep, snow.
Rain, shine.
We're going to be working. So shout out to Walnut Creek and their incredible place that they're putting on. So let me just jump right into the bulk of the show, which is our special guest, ladies and gentlemen, Brendon Metcalf, who's an illustrator. Now, illustrator, can you just break that down what that is?
There's a few different fields. So you can do essentially fine arts, which is pieces you see in galleries, things you can possibly, wave away, the abstract fine art, Picasso, Van Gogh, people who have their studio and they sell their pieces for ridiculous prices. It's fine art. Then there's also commercial art, graphic designers, working for a studio. So an illustrator, essentially, the title encompasses everything drawing. But as far as like an actual illustrator job, there's a few different fields you can go in. But yeah, when I was in college, actually, I met a gentleman, phenomenal artist. He's like living the life of an artist. L.A., works for Miley Cyrus, Usher, all that stuff.
Oh, nice.
And I was looking at doing animation because it's like fun. And he goes, you just want to do illustration because illustration is such a broad degree. It covers everything, really. So with an illustration, background, you can kind of go into any field you want to go into. But it's just a big word to say I draw.
Okay.
Draw whatever I want to draw.
There you go. Yeah. So when did you start? When did you actually start jumping into art and actually knowing this is what you wanted to do?
Here's a question I always get asked too, which is interesting. It was Picasso that said that everybody's born an artist. You grow out of it, and so it's difficult to answer too because I've always been drawing, and everybody always draws. But I'd like to think
terrible at art.
Because that's the thing. Is like I'd like to think at 13 I took it seriously.
Yeah.
But it's like I've had different phases of my art career where it's like 1 year I really focus on this, next year I really focus on that. These last couple of years I'm doing conventions and taking commissions. Before that I was studying in college. So I've been taking it seriously, I want to say, for 15 plus years. But I've always been drawing, and most people have too. It's difficult to nail the point when it's like, today's the day,
Yeah. Usually I ask that question, I always wonder if there was like that one like trailblazing moment. But I think generally, and most of the time, people just like, if that moment was, it's just I was so focused on what I was doing, that I don't remember it. But that's really incredible that you go, I've been doing it for so long, I don't even,
It's like, I remember in college, too, like, I drew a lot in high school, and then when I got to college, I went to JC's and transferred to a state, but at JC, I was like, let me not do art, and let me do something more practical, like business, communications, something I can go to a company with, and I just found myself taking all these art classes all the time, and even my counselors were like, you got too many credits, these art classes aren't going to roll over, and I still took them, and it was like, mostly at that point, too, I realized, like, I couldn't really see myself doing anything besides drawing.
Okay.
I bet I could beat you in stick figure drawing.
I
will challenge you to that. I will straight up challenge you on that one.
I don't think it can happen, but
2 out of 3.
Hey, not bad. But yeah, I didn't have a definitive moment like today's a day. But I remember in college, I was like, I got to put my foot down at some point.
Now, when you first started off drawing, what was like the main thing that you were drawing a lot?
Same thing everybody draws. It's like I was copying comic books. So my father actually kind of got me into it mostly. But it's like old 90s Jim Lee, you know what I'm saying? Like old stuff laying around the house. And so I'd copy a lot of these artists, emulate their style. But a lot of, manga too. I was DBZ, like that was Life Trip, Pokemon. So I did a lot of cartoons when I was younger, Transformers. Mostly comics that I just had laying around or shows I'd really.
There's very incredible.
So you weren't like the guy that draws dicks. What is it from? You know what? That's what I know. Remember the little guy from Superbad? Yeah. And then stuck him in a lunch pail? Yeah. That's like what I think of when I think of drawing. I'm like, I would be doing like all these things that are just my name.
Some
just
abstract,
them in a box.
Some abstract
enough,
art.
I've never, even in my figure drawing classes, what you do is it's called like the double U. So you do a big U, then you do a small U. But I've never actually like rendered penises. So I've never really drawn. So like, every time like, if I needed to, I could, right? But I don't. It's not.
It's not in my description.
No, but I do have people who are able to kind of just do that and not put any thought, not necessarily any thought, but do it freely and enjoy themselves doing it too. I think is an actual talent because I know a lot of people that not necessarily doodle, but they draw what they enjoy and they just draw it all the time. You have a lot of artists. I mean, I would consider myself in this field, but a lot of people who draw, or anybody who's into their craft, sometimes consider themselves a perfectionist, and it has to look just right, and sometimes it sucks the fun out of it. And so you'll see somebody taking 3 weeks working on a piece and reworking it, and then you have people who just say, you know what, this is fun, and they do it without worrying about what other people are going to think because they're enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that comes with a variety of when you jump into drawing something, usually it goes into, why am I doing this? Or kind of like, what am I doing this for? Because sometimes I'll draw something, and then halfway through I'm like, you know what? I'm not that good. I'm just going to just crumple it and then go back. No, but there was a time where I would try to attempt to draw, and then when I get something really good, I'd be like, oh my God, good. And then my brother and then my niece, who are actually artists, and my niece, she actually does paintings, and so every time they draw something, I'm like, no, there's no reason to. They already have the talent for it. But one thing that when you just start out, what was the inspiration? What was inspiring you to like really keep it going?
It was so, once again, I kind of went back to my father. So my father, I think, could have been pro. He was so good. So and this is the thing when they say like you can do whatever you want, and they'll do profiles of athletes and saying, it's a equal playing field and just put your mind to it. I feel like I got a huge advantage by having my father be as into it as he was, and so I always had like art stuff laying around. And unfortunately, my father and I didn't have the best relationship growing up. So what I did is I would draw a lot to try to like make something we could connect on. But like all the comics I would read were his. Like he had just art stuff laying around in old sketchbooks, and he was really talented. So that kind of gave me the initial push where I'd do it more and more. And then at school, people were like, "Oh, you could draw." But my father really got me to take it as seriously. He said, "I think he could have done it," but he had kids young, and then he had to like get a career. So he didn't follow through with it, unfortunately. But it's like as much talent as he had, it kind of got me juiced up to like keep going and keep going.
It's in your blood.
Got to read a lot young. Really got to put the work and the hours in. And it is a level, like if you want to pick it up today, you could. And you can get on whatever level you wanted to. It's just starting younger definitely gives you an advantage. And so I feel like I got an advantage starting as young as I did, being in the environment that I was in. But yeah, my dad.
Okay. What were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome throughout your career? And you can start off with some simple ones. You can go into some heavy ones. It's up to you.
No, I feel like it's interesting because I always like talk to and tutor younger artists when I was their age, 12, 13-year-olds that are thinking about it. I think one of the biggest obstacles, one of the pieces of advice I always give, especially budding artists, is that I saw this one guy draw. His name's Kim Jung-ji, Korean guy. He does these wall-sized masterpieces in a brush pen, and this guy he's phenomenal. He's beyond good. He's levels above any other artist you know. So I saw him draw live one time in San Francisco a couple years ago, and they had this translator, and people were like pretty timid, but they're like, you can ask him questions. He's answering questions, drawing this masterpiece. And so I was firing. I was asking a bunch of questions, and one of the things I asked him, I says, "Do you ever draw something that you don't like?" And he goes, "All the time." And that kind of stuck with me because you just gotta finish it. And so that was one of the biggest obstacles that I faced, and I think a lot of people do too. Where it's like you work on something and it has to be perfect, but even the masters aren't happy with what they do, and that was really eye opening to me. But for the longest time too, it was like the same thing with like buckling down and taking it seriously. It's like, oh well, am I even good enough? Like, can I even finish a piece? having confidence in yourself, even if you don't think that it's as good as it should be, just having confidence and also trusting feedback too is huge. If somebody says, hey, that's really good, and you say, here are the things that are wrong with it, it's like somebody also said a good story too of he had told somebody, hey, that's a nice dress, and she goes, oh, this dress is whatever, I only paid so much for it. And he goes, I didn't ask you how much you paid for it. I just said I like the dress. And I think it's something really, really difficult for people to say, hey, you know what, thank you. And just accept
I think
feedback.
I think the harshest criticisms will also be yourself. Now, Alexa,
Always.
you are a singer. Now, when you are in the studio and you go, that was like someone else goes, that was a beautiful take. And in your mind, you might go, there was something missing. Does that happen?
I am such a perfectionist when it comes to my music. Even with writing, I still need that one person to take some of my words and like rearrange them, just to kind of make me feel more confident. So that definitely comes into play with me. And yeah, I hate getting used to it. It's hard getting used to hearing your voice, even just talking now, like hearing that and like getting used to hearing it on track and like replayed. It's just strange to me, because to me, I don't think I have that great of a voice, but then on the other end, it's different,
You got to trust it.
Yeah. So it's you just kind of have to go with your gut and what you feel, and the feedback definitely helps.
And also when you're an artist, and that's a real broad term for so many different types of skills and talents, but when you actually put your art into the world, many times you may not meet that individual that it meant for them to be like, wow, that was incredible. When Wu-Tang, when they started off, of course they were really talented, but in Asia they loved a lot of their music because of the fact that it was very reminiscent of things that they liked, of the sounds, the beats, and like, wow, they did this really well. They loved that. But who knew that was going to be like a big market for them? And then they would go tours and doing things out there. But it was something that they really liked in that sound. So I think that's really cool when artists do get that chance to actually hear like people go, wow, that's incredible. And that's good because my brother, he's an artist and he actually draws like really good. But then he'll crumple up something. I'll be like, are you kidding me? You just drew, that's a beautiful. And he's like, nah, yeah, I messed up.
That's the thing. It never goes away. And so I think the sooner you learn to be like, if somebody said it really well too, they says, you can't see the whole picture when you're in the frame. So you have to trust if somebody says that's really good, you got to say, you know what, they say it's good. Enough people like it. It's difficult. It is very, very difficult.
It totally is. And like that, one of my songs, it has this little rap part in Lucky I Am. And that part was actually a poem I wrote when I was in like 8th grade. And it was like, I got my heart broken kind of thing from like, your little 8th grade partner, whatever you want to call that. But, and then it's the story behind it, so he's drawing this picture that there's a reason he's drawing that. So they're like hearing the actual story behind it and going deeper to kind of find out what the background is. With my music, I write my own stuff, so it's got a meaning to it. As with his, drawings, that's kind of how I think he sees that too, right?
Definitely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. You're right.
There you go.
I mean, I can't just draw something and be like, ooh, I'm so good at this. Let me keep going.
Well, and on the point of, too, like, doing something you're passionate about, and you had said also about Wu-Tang, too, the examples I pointed out at the beginning where it's commercial versus fine. The thing about commercial art is you can make a more solid living and you can reach a broader audience, but it's also, you could argue, at the cost of, selling yourself, not doing what you enjoy. And fine artists, they do what they love, and it doesn't always work out. It's such a small market. But it's like they're doing what they enjoy, and you can sometimes usually see that translate, too, through their work. Commercial artists, there's a lot of unbelievably talented artists who are miserable at making a living, drawing, essentially, but they're not doing what they want to do.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you can sometimes see it on some people's faces sometimes when you go to like a little gallery or something and just go, yeah, I'm just trying to sell this or I'm trying to make a living, things like that. Because I go to a lot of conventions. Me and Sam go to conventions, and we meet a lot of incredible artists. And sometimes they'll go to so many conventions, or sometimes they'll get tired. Sometimes you might get them on the wrong, like, oh, they look tired. But it's like, no, here's, like, if you look at their craft and what they're doing, then you just jump right in and go, show me your work. Show me what you're getting into. How serious are you about this, And then you follow them online, you buy their product, and you go, wow, this is incredible. Or do commissions. Let's talk about commissions. Now, when someone comes to you about commissions, and mind you, your work, you have a variety of, like I said, politicians, you got cartoon characters, you got film and movie musicians, a whole plethora of things that you draw. So if someone comes to you with something obscure, rare, hard to draw, what is your take on that?
So I have two different pricing structures, essentially. So if somebody wants to come to me with like a portrait, which is what I've been getting commissioned for lately a lot, which is great, which I enjoy doing. that's less expensive than something like that's graphic design. So my graphic design jobs, I have to charge more because I had this. No, you're fine. I had this gentleman come up to me. I was drawing Link because I was like, I wanted to, and I was having fun. And he goes, "Well, do you do business cards?" And I told him, I says, "I can do business cards. It's not my specialty, but I can." He goes, "Okay, you know." So he commissioned me for it regardless. And so the thing about graphic design jobs is I charge more just because it's much more of a back and forth kind of thing. What I'll do for that is I'll draw out. I'll firstly have a one-on-one with the client and say, tell me 3 things you want to portray. Like, what are the 3 most important things to whatever business you're doing? Yeah. And, for example, this one business card, he's like, I love to travel. I'm a psychologist, and he graduated from Columbia. So like those 3 things. And so then what I'll do with that information is I'll sit down and I'll do what I can. And I'm not very creative, but I'll do 10 different designs. Send him his way, say, what do you like? He'll say, I like this, I like that, and I like this. Take those 3 back, do, 3 more of each, send them over, what do you like? I like, and you just narrow it down. But it's like, it is a lot more work, and it's not necessarily something that, it's not that I don't enjoy it, but it's like,
it's very time consuming.
It's very time consuming. And I'm sure you've run into this thing too, where it's like somebody's like, man, I love that. And you go, well, that's cool, but this will be better. No, man, this is what I want. And it's like, all right, well, you're paying me, so
yeah,
I mean,
whatever you're saying.
So at some point, sometimes you can lose that like passion for it, because it's like this would look really cool, but I want this. It's all right, but that's also like, that's more commercial, which I don't mind doing. But those are the more difficult jobs, I would say. For the portrait work, which I really enjoy doing.
Well, let's go ahead and show some of your works,
so
ladies and gentlemen. Check
work,
out these. So let me hold this one for you.
Thank you so much. So this same thing. I spoke to a gentleman who owned his own business, really nice guy, and I was trying to pick his brain about like doing work and running my own too. So he commissioned me to do that one. And the thing is, like, I have so much fun doing those. But because I enjoy them, I don't charge as much because it's something that I get to do. This one's also a commission, Mr. Christopher Walken.
It's Christopher Walken.
Christopher Walken. But same thing. Like I'm not a huge Christopher Walken fan. I like him a lot, but the person that commissioned me to do it, I did it, and it's like now I have something that I really enjoy.
He scares me.
Hey man,
I will say
he's
this,
just creepy looking.
Well, I will say this.
You
this
recognize
is,
him?
This
Oh,
is
of
a
course.
very wonderful piece that you've done
Thank you
here.
so much.
And me and my friends, we love Christopher Walken. We're big, silly goofballs. Like, need more cowbell.
Exactly.
I always pictured him being the one guy, like, you go to sleep at night, and he just, like, wakes
Pops
up.
out of
He
nowhere.
just wakes you up, and he's just like, let's go to the store. You're like, okay. let's go.
Scary, that's what I said.
He's definitely a face you
Let me
recognize.
see some more.
Oh yeah.
I saw one in there about the Warriors. I'm kind of digging.
So this one, same thing. This was also commissioned to me for my barber, and this is one of my earlier pieces. But it's like same thing where he asked me what to do, and I feel like I priced it too high. But it's just it's difficult because I'm more recently getting to the stage where I'm charging and figuring out my price structure. But I'm really happy with how this turned out, and now I have a nice print. He has the original hung up on his wall,
nice,
blown up real big. It's really cool.
That's awesome. I love that.
So there's like a balance. So like this one also does really well. Got commissioned for Mr. Obama, number 44.
Of course.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You always got to have a decent president picture.
Exactly right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am the President of the United States, Obama. Thank you. Goodbye. I'm going to talk to my wife, Malia, and we're going to...
Malia?
No,
Who's Malia?
His daughter. It's actually his daughter.
I'm like, who's Malia?
Yeah, I forgot.
Isn't her name Michelle?
Secret life.
There you go. But no, I love this. Love this portrait because it's one of those, and this is like you could immediately just post on the wall. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And then look at it and be like, God, I look like this today.
Well, and that's one of the things is this is your work. You know what I mean? Of this man and the incredible things that he's done. But it's like and that's what I think when you do a commission, things like that. If you want it really bad, pay the artists pay them. If they need a little bit extra time, give it to them. Because if this is what you want, here's the thing: if you can't do it, you gotta pay for it. Because it takes time. Because let me tell you, if I had to sit there and I was like, I really want this Obama photo, and I had to draw it myself,
it's tough, man.
I'd probably look this old, finishing it and be like, yep, I got it. And
the thing is, you still be like, well, I could change this, and then 5 more years.
Oh no, yeah, I'd probably do that 1,000 times.
Right.
It never goes away.
And paintings aren't cheap either, so
Yeah.
Well, let's see some of your other works because I definitely love a lot of
you. So this one is Samus, my main in Smash. And if you think you can do Smash, come see me.
There you go. Smash.
God, that almost looks like just like a picture taken. That's how good that
Thank
looks.
you. I appreciate that.
So.
So with this, like Hellboy 2, what I'll do is I will I'll draw and ink it by hand, but then I'll color it digitally just because you have a lot more flexibility in Photoshop. But like the portraits, I do all of it by hand, just because I do think there's some more value in an original, and then I'll scan it and do prints.
So how long does like one of these ones take you to?
That's a good question. I would ballpark 8 to 10 hours.
That's it.
It's a lot of time
for one, yeah.
I know, but I mean, I guess that is a long time.
It's different stages too. So so right now I'm doing a portrait of one of my friend's daughters. And so I'll pencil it one day. I'll do a bunch of other things in between work and whatnot. Then I'll ink it another day. Right now it's inked. I got to go to the studio. It happens in layers, so it's kind of difficult to clock beginning and end.
Yeah, well, it looks so good. So I was expecting it to take maybe a couple days.
So here's the thing too. So like on the point of being paid and managing your time, I got to a point. So Justin Prime, he's an art mentor, phenomenal artist. Can I tell you a quick story about him?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I was trying to my end goal, and it's been this for a year or so, is I want to get paid to do art full time. That's it. And then as days go on, I kind of refine it and figure out how. And so I reached out to this one artist on Instagram. His name's Justin Prime. He does these like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Venom crossovers, and that's what he got kind of blown up for. And he had like 8K followers, whatever. And so I emailed him. I was like, hey man, he's out in Stockton. So I emailed him. I says, hey man, like I love your work. You know, could we meet it for lunch one day and I could just pick your brain? And he just emails me back. He's like, nah, I got a family. I'm busy. I says, okay, cool. But he hit me back. Cool. So then I do my first ever convention in Pleasanton. Mm-hmm. Some friends and I shared the table. So I set up shit show. And right next to me is Justin Prime.
And he was there.
Right next to me. And the whole show, I was like, oh my God, that's him, yada, yada. Wow. And he's just a quiet guy by nature. So I talked to him like, yo.
You're like, hey, dick.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, what's up, how you doing? Yada. He goes, oh, hey, what's up?
I mean, that's what I would have said.
Dude, and then I was just like, so I tried to talk to him every now and then, but he was kind of just really reserved. And I'd done he had his own series, and so I did a fan piece, like a piece of art for him. I kept the pencils just by chance. I just had them on me. So the convention's over, and we ended up talking a little bit more towards the end, but he's still kind of like, man, whatever.
Did he know who you were?
Nope. Well, then I tell him, I'm like, yo, I drew you a piece. And he goes, oh, what's your Instagram name? I was like, oh, at the time it was B-Dog Draws, which I think is dope. And he was like, oh, yeah. I goes, B-Dog Draws. He goes, oh, yeah, I remember that. He didn't know which one it was. But it was nice enough to him at least entertain it. And so I have the pencils, and I go, like, look, these are the pencils for the piece I did you. Like, I just want you to have them. Do whatever you want. I just want you to have them because I, love your art, and I respect what you do. And he goes, okay, cool, thanks, whatever. And I left that convention heated. Not heated, but I was just like, what a douchebag, yada, yada, whatever. So about a week goes by, and he DMs me, and he goes, hey, I'm doing Silicon Valley Comic-Con in San Jose. And he knew I lived in San Jose at the time. He goes, do you want to help me out with my table for it? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. And so I do the table with them, and I learn a lot, and we become, I would consider best friends. I'd hope you feel the same way. No, but like just sitting back there and seeing how much he did, and that was just such a phenomenal experience. But he taught me a lot of what I know now as far as like, so the point to that whole story being is we did 3 conventions, and then he was just like, we're doing a convention over the weekend. He made good money, not to, but he made good money. And I was blown away. I was like, man, he's selling a bunch of stuff. And it was over the weekend. And I was like, in my mind, I was watching what he was doing. I was like, this would be the life. And he was like, he was talking to me the whole time. He goes, I don't know if I'm going to do conventions anymore. Because, it's difficult. And he gets a text.
Yeah, because he's got that family and all.
He gets a text and he goes, damn it. I says, what's up? He goes, my daughter's in a soccer game right now. And I just missed her first goal. And he's like, because I'm here doing this convention.
Wah, wah, wah.
And he's like, you make money, but he's like, it's just not worth it. So he gave it up, and I took his stuff over. And then also, too, we kind of set up this mentor series where I'd call him once a month, and he'd be like, what are you trying to do? And he'd kind of walk me through and help me out. The point being is one of the things he taught me was, because for the longest time I wanted to do it, but I didn't really have a direction. So what he did is he kind of like helped me set me up and stuff, and I can get it to you this time.
Exactly. I think that's one of the things where you should be able to manage your time and make sure it's very important to you. Man. It's very tough. Especially when you are doing art for different types of people. And like I said, even for the ones that you showed us here, you have actually a few more.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
No, I want to bring these up because I want to show this one and also one of my favorite ones I saw online.
You like this one?
I like the Zelda, right? So, of course, this is Link and Zelda, or the video game from Zelda. Yeah. And then here's a zombie version.
Legend of Zombie. Yeah,
which I love because it's like, okay, she has the sword and everything, and it's just like, yeah, he's still coming.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that, man.
So what is some of the, also in relevance of what you were just talking about, what are some of your favorite kind of fictional characters that you go, oh man, I love drawing this character, or I really love these characters from shows and things that that you really like?
There are definitely some artists that single-handedly carry characters. Hellboy, Mike Mignola, Akira. Forget about it.
Wow, yeah, that's the old. The animation on that alone is incredible. We're talking about Akira or Akira, the movie back. It's an old anime movie, but the animation on it was so good because every frame was like hand drawn, and I mean these were thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people drawing. Every time you saw the movement, it was almost unnatural how it was.
Really,
it's because my boy one time he was like, oh, they're replaying Akira in the theaters a couple years ago, and I was like, yeah, and I was like some '80s anime, like I don't whatever. And he goes, dude, you need to watch it, and I saw it in theaters for the first time, and my mind was blown, just because I assumed it was just old dated animation. I never seen anything as beautiful since. So like all the characters from that, Zelda, big into video games too, so Ninja Turtles always fun to draw. Batman, you can't go wrong with Batman. Daredevil. So yeah, mostly just fictional.
What about Spider-Man?
Spider-Man I do, but Spider-Man's difficult just because
all the movements, all the
well, I mean, just like sometimes if I'm doing something quick, I'll just do a bust, like the shoulders up, and you can't really it's just the mask and the eyes. So it's fun, but it's not necessarily challenging because it's just the same thing.
Right.
With Deadpool, Deadpool's a lot of fun, and he's requested really often because you can
have him like a unicorn or something crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that one movie that came out with all the superheroes in it?
Probably one of the Lego ones, or Justice League, or Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity Wars,
something like that. Wars. Yeah, where it's got a bunch of different.
Yeah.
So, Marvel. Alexa, what's some of your what do you know about comic books and all that? And she's like, absolutely nothing.
Obviously, not a lot since I can't even remember the movie. I was just thinking.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
I don't know a lot about comic books and stuff. I think because it never kind of ran in my family where they owned them and stuff. And then it was like, I'm kind of one of those annoying rich bitches from Danville, that I'll admit it.
All I know is just picture you've seen a comic book. What is this?
And I think that might have been how I was, I think I was like that little kid that, I wanted to go out and play. I don't want to look at a book, I was so my family, athletics ran in my household. And so it was like.
Well, do you play any video games?
Nintendo 64.
Okay.
I will go back to that along with Duck Hunt and the original Mario Brothers.
Okay. Old school. There you go.
See, I like those. Yeah. I still go to my brother's house and I try and steal his Nintendo.
Yeah. Every time you location.
Every time I go over there, I take just a piece of it. Like one of the controllers is gone, and
frames missing.
I have a Nintendo Wii that's been sitting in my apartment that I haven't touched since I bought it 5 years ago.
Oh wow!
So yeah, I think I just don't have I want to be able to get into that kind of thing, but it's just my ADD kicks in, and I'm like, I got to go out and run around.
The next time me and Sam go to a convention, we got to bring you along.
There's a girl I work with that goes to these anime things, and she's always dressed in costume.
Yeah,
no, she always dresses in costume, and so
cosplay?
it's cool because she always shows me the pictures.
So,
I'm like,
what's essentially kind of building from a lot of that, especially with the Marvel movies, is a lot of times, especially our generation around the late '80s, '90s. Comic books and things were kind of weren't popular, but now it's kind of on the mainstay. So it's really cool to see these artists and all these illustrators and all these talented people get their shine and get their kind of even Stan Lee. I mean, it's really hard for even who's Stan Lee? Everyone knows him. He's just a guy behind the comic books, And it's yeah.
Kidding.
Yeah. But that's really cool when you go to these conventions that you get to meet a lot of these different artists. You meet a lot of their, you get to see a lot of their talents, and you also get commissions where you go, you know what, Alexa, I want a picture of me, but in the style of this Wonder Woman. And there's people that are okay, cool, there you go. It's cool. You put it on your wall, on your mantle. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with at these conventions, but also you get to see these different types of art styles. Now, one thing that's really cool from your art, Brendon, is the fact that you have digital art, and then you can also do faces, which I think is one of the hardest things to replicate or try to do, is to get detail of someone's facial features, and then put it down on a pin.
I mean, you saw it. Look at that Barack Obama one.
Exactly.
It was like dead on.
Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that. Well, that's with portraits too. I do charge more for actual portraits. Okay, this is
As
also
you should, because they're
from Fight Club. It's a little bit smaller, but like things like Fight Club, Captain America, Joker, you won't get called out on it. Like people are gonna be like, oh, but I do a lot of like live sketching. If I'm at Bard, if I'm at the cafe, but I'll draw people all the time just from for myself, and I never show people me drawing them, just because every time I've like done something quick and haven't like put time into it, and I show somebody, because when you're drawing, what you want to do is capture the feature. So if they have a big nose and a tiny neck, like you exaggerate those to get their feeling. But every time I've do a quick sketch and somebody's seen, they go, is my neck that small?
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever drawn like a bunch of pictures of just yourself? Because if I could draw that good, I'd be like all about drawing pictures of myself.
The one thing they always recommend is doing a self-portrait so you can see your own growth, and that's one of the best ways to gauge your growth, because it's like yourself. But I did self-portraits mostly in college for assignments, but it's the same thing, like, because you're always hypercritical.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doubly hypercritical of your own portraits, because you're not just, you see yourself the most, you know?
Right.
So you know everything that's wrong. But what's actually interesting too is that a lot of people artists will sometimes project their own features on other people, just because that's how in touch with your face you are.
Right.
So, I mean,
I think it'd be cool to do like a picture of you now, and then like the things you'd want to change about yourself. You know, like me, I want a nose job, so I'd make my nose different in the picture after.
You could.
So like do like
get a
you
commission.
now.
You should get a commission done
Right.
of like you with the nose and like everything that you want to change, and then
Big old
like
lips.
you're like thank you, perfect. I'm gonna get this job done. They're like, wait, what?
You go to the plastic surgeon. I want to look like this.
And you come back
This
to
was
that,
the before
you come
and this
back,
is the
you
after.
come back to that artist. Thank you so much. The artist is like, oh my god.
What happened to your
Band-Aids on her
face?
face. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
You could.
I would never do it.
Possibly.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that's really cool, because I've actually met Kevin Eastman at one of the conventions, and one of the co-creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and his story, and it's one thing that's really cool. It's really intricate. If you get a chance, look up kind of like we'll think of like the Smurfs and all these, but look how they started. It always started off on something really small, mundane, but it took the minds of the individual to be creative and constantly put out that work. Because there was a time when TMNT wasn't going to be ever a thing, and now it's one of the biggest things in the universe, on our planet. And I had a chance to meet Kevin Eastman, and one thing I remember, I met him, and I actually had the first TMNT movie on VHS sealed.
Oh, nice.
Because I just had it, and it actually had the Blockbuster. He was cracking up. He's like, "Oh my god, you still have And he opens it up. This is the most pristine version I've ever seen. And when he opens up the tape to do a signature, like a pizza coupon came out on it, and it was like for a Pizza Hut. And he's like, "Is this still valid?" No, I don't think it is.
That's cool though.
So I was like, all right, cool. So he signed it, and I came back and met him again and got a Funko Pop signed of it. But I was like, wow, this is incredible. When I was a kid, I was like, my parents would buy us like the blankets and all this at TMNT, and like here I am meeting that man, And I remember seeing documentaries of him just drawing, the little funny face turtle thing or whatever. I'm like, wow, it's incredible. So you never know, you know what I mean, what can be, but it's also really cool because also Usaki Yojimbo was another, what did you call it?
The commission I did at the last convention, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Thank you.
So I saw that, and it's like a bunny character, but he's like a samurai.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
it shows like who you never know who you're going to run into.
Right.
Who you're going to meet.
But also think about being like an artist and going, you know what? I'm going to make a cartoon that is about teenage mutant ninja turtles, and they're just like, yeah, good luck with that. Because when the first movie, they're picking up people to buy the movie, no one would do it because it was except for one company.
Well, whatever happened to that? Remember the dinosaurs? That dinosaur show, and it was the baby would go, "I'm the baby, gotta love me."
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that?
I'm the baby, gotta love me.
And he's all in the. You don't remember that show?
I mean, I
I think it's literally called the Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs or something like that. That came out way before Ninja Turtles and stuff. But
yeah,
I was always the purple one. I had the purple little wrapping around my face. My brother and sister and I used to dress as those when we were younger and just pretend like we'd fight each other.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned conventions, what are some of the ones you've gone to, and what are some that you want to go to?
very quick point on the TMNT. It's just it goes back to the fine art versus commercial art, too, where it's like fine art's like he'd stick with it and it blew up into what it is, but it's something he cares about. And that's why
exactly.
if he had sold out and been like, oh, whatever sells, but that's why I'm trying to go that route. Conventions I've done, so I've done Powerhouse Con, Campbell Con, and these are all like small $60 tables, which is cheap.
Are these like local or are they
more or less Pleasanton, Campbell, San Jose?
I think
so Bay Area.
like Tracy,
Yeah,
some of the
Tracy, right. There's one in Merced, but I want to get to Emerald City and Seattle, the Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
It's like the bigger ones. Those tables go for.
I will say this, and I actually Lisa, the co-owner here at the Churchwood Pub, she Churchwood Pub. One thing that's really cool that she would do is when she would go to different conventions, because she's still new to it, and when she goes to the smaller one, she's like, you know what? It's more feels like a family environment. It feels really like close. You know, everyone's kind of close. Hey, old friends see each other. It's really good. Hey, come check out our booth. Things like that.
Right.
On the bigger ones, sometimes it's just so much going on. Your brain can't even fathom what to do. Because there's like hundreds of feet of of different types of cosplayers, artists. There's people selling stuff and things like that. So I think it's a good chance to go to a variety. So you got to go to a variety.
So my quick question: what is something like? Say you want to rent like the smallest table at something like that. Like how much does that like go for?
So the tables, the tiny ones go for like 60 bones. They're about this tiny or this size. But that's just for the table. That doesn't include like gas and the prints and stuff.
Right.
But $60 for like a cheap table. San Diego and Silicon Valley Comic Con, two of the bigger ones, Emerald City. The thing about those tables is they go for about $325. But the thing is, the artists that are there make that back in a second,
right?
And then some. But also to get in those bigger conventions like Silicon Valley Comic Con, for example, a lot of the artists that I know have been going there, and so what happens is they get invited back. When you're trying to get in, what you have to do is you have to apply the day after the convention, and then like you're on a big wait list, and they check out all your art, and like a lot of really talented artists I know never get in just because it's not just the money, but it's extremely competitive. Because I've met people too. All they do is the convention, so they'll fly Salt Lake City, New York Comic Con, and they just fly around, and they spend 3 bones on the table, and they make that back in a heartbeat, and then some, and then go. They just travel new conventions.
I could do that at a strip club,
right? I mean, people pay money; it's a market, But the small ones, I think, at least for myself, are a great starting point because I'm figuring it out each time I do a show. I'm like, okay, I got to get this for next time. I like his setup. I do it like this. But yeah, $60.
To get more ideas on how
it's a very, very cheap price to pay for the growth I experience each time.
But also, it's a variety. And also, we've actually had several of our friends and people that actually been on the show before have been artists. Kevin Pringle, who's a talented artist. He does a lot of portraits of people's faces, really skilled. And then Jason Doobie, who has he has a comic book company, and his company caters to like children's and kids and things like that. So that's another thing too. When kids are introduced to comic books, like how I was, or maybe you, and a lot of other people, they get to see, oh my God, this is really cool. Here's action, panel to panel. You know what I mean? Great stories, especially for DC. Batman was incredible stories. They're so good. It's like not only one, we're going to see one in the movie theater. How many 10, 15 movies? And there's such detective comics. It was all about being a detective, in which Batman was.
Right.
He's changed a lot throughout the years, but we all know who he is, and he comes from a comic book, and that's one of the things that's really cool. But even if it's a comic book or even a portrait or something, and also illustrations like panel to panel, you work on those as well.
Oh yeah.
And on your website, I saw one. I saw many, but there was one I saw with a gentleman who had like a gun in his face, and
So that was my friend. This is the same thing. Years ago, before I was like getting paid, my friend Kay, he's like a brother to me. He had this script of like some Russian mafia kind of thing, and I was looking for something to do, and so he sent me the script, and I did a lot of those pages in Photoshop, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago. But it was because like I said before, I was really thirsty and hungry for projects to like keep me, and that was a great project too, and I learned a lot from it. But yeah, that was a comic my friend wrote, and then I was taking way too long. I didn't finish it, and other things pop up, But yeah, that's a classic.
Now, if you're doing panel to panel and you're writing like your own story, what's something that you want to start doing? Like, what's something that you look forward to? Like,
it's interesting because every project that I've ever done, it's so crazy. So like, even with comics or illustrations, but it's the same process every time. It's like, I'll sit down for a comic. I'll have an idea. Okay, well, I gotta thumbnail this page. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to thumbnail this page. I start thumbnail, and I'm like, man, this is the best part. And then I start to do the hard pencils. I'm like, hard pencils, man, I really got to, like, make all these decisions and figure it out. I'm like, man, this is so much work. And I start doing it. I'm like, man, this is so much fun. Inking it, man, if I mess up. And every step I'm really hesitant to do until I jump in, and then it's the time of my life. So there's not necessarily one part I look forward to more. Each part, I'm kind of hesitant each part. I'm like, oh, God, colors, man, colors aren't my strength. And I start doing it. I'm like, man, I just stay inside the lines.
That is literally a mind of a creative mind right there.
I think I need to start drawing again.
It's
he's
fun,
using
man.
these like high-tech words, and I'm like, he's pinning something? Like, what does that mean?
Well, I will say this. So I don't know if it's ever happened to you guys, but if you ever walk past like an artist gallery, or pass by, but then you pass by one portrait or one painting, and you're just stuck, and you just get lost into that art, and you go, I get it now. A lot of the people that, you see like movies like, oh, I love fine art. They have the wine bottle, and you're like, oh, yes, they're drinking, and, like, oh, I love fine art. But it's like, no, there will always be that one kind of art style or something that you go, I want this on the wall, or this is something that's really incredible, that you go, I love that. And it happened to me a few years back at the Berkeley, in Berkeley, at one of the theaters, the Bay Area Children's Theater I was working for, and they had these like art pieces that the college kind of put on these walls. And then I walked past one, and I was like, this is incredible. And they even had like the price on it too. I was like, man, if I had another job, I'd get this, because it was really expensive, but it was a beautiful portrait. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I was just stuck. Has that happened to you guys before?
It's happened to me, but
Apparently not, Alexa.
with music, I've ever heard a voice that's just like, that's
No,
great.
I'm kind of, for some reason, I just thought back to something just totally that I actually drew in high school. It was actually a portrait of my mother that I took one of her old photos. Best drawing ever. It's actually framed on her wall now in the house. But me and my brother actually did it for her as a Christmas gift. She was a flight attendant for TWA back in the day. And so we took one of her pictures of her in her flight attendant uniform and drew it, and me and him did it together.
Wow,
and so it was a
that's
portrait
cool.
of her, and it's actually on the wall. And I'm like, I think that's the best drawing I've ever done. So that's the print, the framed print
you
right
know
there.
I want to
You
see
look
that.
at
You
it.
got to show us. You got to show
Okay,
us.
I'll have to get a photo of it. It is pretty. It looks just like the photo. So.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
But I think my brother did the most of the
Hey,
work.
it's all good though.
But I've never really had that like moment where I like to see different art like galleries and stuff. Like I'll walk by, there's stuff that draws me to it, like the colors and all that kind of stuff. But nothing that's ever been like, oh, boom, I have to have it. I haven't had that moment yet. What about you?
I mean, yeah, not necessarily a specific piece of art, but definitely a style. And I feel like there's a lot of the same thing, commercial and fine. There's definitely styles that I really enjoy. Mike Mignola, for example, Hellboy. A lot of my friends don't like him, but it's like somebody who knows what they like and just hones in on it. And that's the thing too. Just Prime is even at these conventions, you'll have. You could argue commercial artists and fine artists, and commercial artists, the same thing. They have what he referred to as a checklist of like, okay, they got 40, 50 prints. They got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, the Flash, Spider-Man. They have Wolverine. They have a print of every main character because it sells and it does really well and you make good money.
Yes.
But then you have artists too that say, you know what, these are the characters I like. And I found you reach a finer market, but a more engaged one too. People are like, oh, Samus, like I love, and we can talk about, though it's not like that could have been time I could have done a more famous character, but it's something I enjoy. And so I think appealing to a finer market of somebody that's like, I get what you're doing, even if you're not trying to appeal to the masses. I think something more personal is like, I feel what you're coming from, and then you get that connection. And then that person's also more likely to be more supportive to you instead of like, here's my money, I'll see you later. So yeah, I've seen artists that have that style that I really get gravitated towards, and then fortunately I felt the same effect in reverse too. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. Also, real quick now, besides drawing and it pertains to your art, or is this something else? Something else?
It was like, what is it? 24 I did it, and 25 was a big year for me because I didn't realize there's a thing called a quarter life crisis where it's like, dude, it hits you hard. And so this is like leading up to that, but I was in the stage where I was like, I just finished San Jose State, and like I was bartending at the time, and I was doing art but not seriously. And my boy Kay, the guy that wrote the script for that comic, he's like a brother to me, and white boy, is just nicest guy ever. And he was like, we should go to Europe. and so we backpacked through Europe for 2 months. And it was great. It was one of the things like I definitely would have done it had he not like pushed me. But I'm really happy I did it, and I'm also regret not doing it again sooner. But it's like, one day. But traveling definitely helped me a lot too, just because the way they view art in Europe is really different too. And it really, man, it really opened my eyes. And just seeing like just all the architecture and the paintings.
Speak about a few of the places that you've been to, because it hasn't just Europe. You also been to Rome, I think it was.
Yeah, so we went to Italy to Paris.
Seeing the art there.
God. Well, it's like they had, and that's the crazy thing too, is they have like all the museums are free. Most of the museums are free. So
wow, that's cool.
Did you like sit there and sip wine and eat cheese and draw photos?
You just walk in. Well, here's another thing too is
that's like what I think of when I think of those exotic places, like all these skinny women, just like.
Oh man, well, so that like you have a lot of modern art now that I kind of mentioned, where it's like abstract, blank canvas, the MoMA and stuff. Even in Los Angeles, there's like more modern pop art museums out, and that's usually what I've been exposed to mostly. Legion of Honor in San Francisco is more classic, but in Rome and Italy, France, it's just old school Renaissance, the heart of it's so unbelievably beautiful. And I watched this video and it kind of made sense, but I kind of value that artwork more, just the skill it takes and the execution, and so just being in that environment and seeing all those paintings really just kind of give me
an experience, motivation.
Have you been to Greece?
We didn't make it to Greece.
Oh, no. we have to do that sometime.
Greece? It's like a hugely turmoil.
I'm a Greek.
Yeah, but it's like so, that we didn't go to Greece because it was like in the middle of some civil bankrupt.
Being Greek and all, Greece and Ireland are the two places
Ireland
I need to go.
Is a lot of fun. But the thing about it is like Ireland and other places like that too. We went to Ireland, flew in and flew out of there, and it's cool. But like you go out and you go to like the spots they recommend you to, and you're with a bunch of other fucking Americans, and it's just like a bunch of other tourists like, I'm trying to get an experience. So the best experiences we had were people that lived like in Italy, Prague, Budapest. I spent 2 weeks in Sweden, loved it. But like talking to the people who lived there and them showing you kind of the back alleyways instead of like, because Paris unfortunately was kind of underwhelming because we did the Eiffel Tower, we did the Louvre, and same thing, a bunch of Americans,
all the touristy stuff,
bunch of tourists out there, and it's like, and then we went to like these hole in the wall wineries and like people. So, I mean, the experience overall was unbelievable.
Is this something that you see in the future too, that you're doing a lot more?
It's one of the things where it's like, yeah, man, one day. But you know how it goes. So because my friend Kay, my father told me a similar story too. He went to Thailand, I think, for a week or two, but same thing. He's like one day, and his friend sat there and made him buy the ticket, and he's like, my friend never made me buy the ticket. I wouldn't have gone. He went, life-changing. But it's like, it's difficult because it's like, the money, and I gotta take time off of work, and when's it?
Well, if you need a hotel hookup.
People in Greece? Is that what it is?
I work at a hotel.
Really?
Nationwide.
On your side.
Yeah, I'll put in a good word. But no, traveling was definitely helpful. And that's why, like, in a perfect world, the next time I do travel, I'd like to do it through art. Like, go to Seattle for a convention and spend,
Yeah. Well, no, definitely. I'd say shoot for it. Mm-hmm. Definitely go for it, especially when it comes to art and expression, because even if you go there, one thing that's people kind of forget, they don't forget, but generally when you go and you express your art and people see it, there is going to be that one person. There's going to be that many people that they're going to enjoy seeing your art and go, wow, I love this. I love the style, because you have such a variety. I always said, and we're going to do shouts and plugs in a second for the wrap-up show, but real quick, talk about some of the people that were motivating you or that were kind of behind you to help you get to where you are.
Okay. High school, I always had artist friends. In college, JC, my friend Sam, and it's sad. I love these guys so much, but more recently, so Sam was is still one of my good friends, and he and I had figure drawing class together, but we drew, and I feel like I took it up a step. And then he still draws, but it's like, so Sam was unbelievably influential in my college career. Oh, different Sam. And then after Sam, Justin and Jeremy, brothers who I met through Sam, more recently they kind of kept me up, kept me going. But I think the most growth Kay and his family, all artists, really, really helpful. But the biggest growth I've found, and I think a big reason why I'm in a lot of the situations I'm in more recently is because of Justin Prime. We did a mentorship series where I told him once a month, every other week, we'd do a video chat, he'd record it, and he'd hold me to these standards. And then, I'd check back in and say, here's what I did, here's what I didn't do. We check back in 2 weeks from there. And over the course of a year, towards the end of it too, like in the beginning, I was asking him everything. What do I do? How do I charge? What do I do? You know, and then towards the end of it too, he would reach out to me and be like, yo, you know, it's been a couple months, like we haven't talked. And I just felt so comfortable at the spot I was at because of the growth I experienced through him. So I would argue Justin Prime for this point is the biggest one, but like there's so many people who have contributed throughout the years, man. My father's also been really, like I said, not the best relationship in the beginning, but now he's been unbelievably supportive. Yeah, just a good close group of friends. And then same thing. I always try to find artists better than me too, because I don't want to be you know, they say if you're the smartest one in your group, you got to find a new group.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. Every week you should test that theory. Mm-hmm. What's upcoming? What's with some new projects going on? So
I'm working on a portrait right now, another portrait. A graphic design job is what I have on my plate currently. In a perfect world, I'll finish that before the end of the year. And I'm at a spot too where it's like, and it sucks too because I just had to bump up all my prices more recently. But if it's like if I finish what I have on my plate now, and nothing else comes, that's great because I have all these things I want to do for myself. I mean, but there's a lot of like people have reached out to me. Can you do this? And I say, let's check back January. So currently, the 2 portraits and the graphic design is on my plate. And same thing, I don't have any future conventions, unfortunately.
Well, I think
we'll have to change that.
Well, I
think around February, that's when they really start to pick up. Right. But yeah, I don't have any shows right now. But I also work at a gallery too, in San Francisco. Can I tell you about my jobs real quick? Real quick. Okay.
We're neighbors, yo.
San Francisco. So I work at Trader Joe's actually.
There you go.
It's really cool. But I work 4 a.m. to noon, and then I work at a school part-time, 3 to 6, 2:45 to 6. And then I do the gallery a couple times a month, too. So, like, that's the thing about, like, I don't want to... There have been times where I'm like, I'm going to do all this, I'm going to do all that. I was working on a comic with my friends, and then we kind of, like, got in this mini-argument, but then eventually I was like...
That happens a lot.
It happens. But it's like, they brought up a really good point of, like, you know, between all the jobs, and then at one point, too, I was doing these conventions, and I was just neglecting my friends and my family because I had to work too much. And so... As much art as I'd like to put on my plate, I really got to be better at balancing.
Make time for you.
I mean, that too. That's something I'm trying to do more recently too. It's tough though, because in theory, it's like if I grind now for 10 years.
And are you married, kid?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh.
But, hey, but you know, sometimes that stops people from pushing forward. So.
That's why people are like, you want kids? It's not that I also. So I have an older sister that's full blood. My mom got remarried, and I have a 1-year-old and a 6-year-old sister, so they're young, and I'll go hang out, and I love them so much, but it's also like having kids.
Are you ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely not. and you know, and maybe down the line.
Yeah.
I always joke to. I always say like, the people go, "You gonna have kids?" I said, "I'm gonna wait till I'm 50. I'm gonna find some hot 18-year-old and just."
My parents are the same way. There's 3 of us with no kids yet.
I'm gonna wait till I just and then at that point too, because I know people that have gotten married at 23, 24. I'm like.
Can you picture how many Alexa running around?
It's a lot.
That's scary.
So not yet. I'm not against the idea. It's just for the time being because like I said, the goal is to do the art full time, and the best way that I'm
just balancing and making time. Alexa, upcoming projects.
When I can fully take a breath from this miserable job that I just love so much. Hopefully that I'm, getting my health back, write some more stuff. I'm, obviously getting some new beats from new artists that, I can push and do some more writing to and get in studio and, maybe possibly reach out to some of my local rap artists like, Matt Black and just a few other Bay Area guys that I'm friends with and do some collabs and do some new music,
Okay.
That's my project, is to at least get a single out.
Yeah, there you go. Some new music. There you go.
Yeah, because I have fans everywhere that keep messaging me like, when are you going to get new stuff? Like, been following your journey through the whole thing, and it's
really nice of them to to reach out and
it's cool because I get a message every here and there, just like new stuff question mark, like when. Come on, like
you got to do a holiday track. You got to do one for Christmas. You got to sit there.
All I Want for Christmas Is You, the remake.
Yeah, there you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be wrapping up here on the Slam Show. But before we do, we definitely going to do our shouts and plugs for the show. Brendon, take us out. Where people can find you.
Okay, Metcalf Illustrations.com is my website, Metcalf Illustrations, one word, is also the Instagram handle. MetcalfIllustrations@gmail.com. It's all the same. Metcalf, Metcalf, Illustrations. Hopefully you don't need help spelling that one. But one word, link to everything, and yes, some of the artwork. And I just want to thank you guys also very much for having me, too. I very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. This one does well, too. The Flash.
I'm like, I don't think you showed any of these.
Joker.
There's so many. Definitely check out his Instagram so you can see many of his works, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
And also, definitely shouts and plugs, family members, friends. They watching this, they're going to be like, you left me out. It happens.
Prime,
Ooh,
first
that's
and
a good one. Snape.
Hey, man, if you know, you
I
know.
actually know who this is.
There we Nerd.
I know.
That one's...
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Instagram. It's Alexa_Stringer. And then I have my website, which is www.alexastringer.com. You can find my whole story, get my music there. I have Facebook, of course, Twitter, at Alexa Stringer. Everything's Alexa Stringer. So, and if you can't figure out, look at the back of my car, because I'm pretty sure it's on there in bright pink letters. But yeah, definitely everyone in these guys and just the whole production and everything in general. So thank you guys a lot. And hopefully we'll all have some new stuff out pretty soon.
There you go. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in for the Slam Show. Thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Brendon, for jumping in and being a part of this show. Big shout out to DJ Slam and Sam in the back over there doing the boards. And thank you, Alameda, for hosting us here at the home, Churchwood Pub. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.